What's up guys, this is Benj Meeks aka Gardenguy, and I'm here at Justin and Rebecca Rhodes' farm. Here's Rebecca's greenhouse back here, looking gorgeous in there. And I just wanted to shout out the roads there, have been so wonderful. But while I've been here, I've been realizing that people want to start a fall garden. They want to get vegetables growing in the fall, and they want to start new gardens in the fall, but need a little help to know exactly how to get there. I am in the process of making a 4-part course on that, and this is the first video of that course. And I just wanted to give it to you guys for free because I know this is, for one thing, this is the time to get started. Time is of the essence, and I know that there's almost so much time whenever it comes to a fall garden, but I wanted to get you guys started. In this video, I'm going to go through the what and the when and the how of fall garden planting. I'm going to make it simple for you guys. Number one is the what. I'm going to look at how in the world do you know which plants you want to plant for your region, for your specific family needs. I'm going to look into that, and to be able to determine at the end of it, you'll have a list of plants that you're going to be planting this fall. And then number two, it is the when. I'm trying to figure out, based off of your region. You know, I live in Tennessee, and right now it's fall planting time. But for you, you could live up north, or you could live in Texas, or who knows where. But I'm going to give you the tools to be able to determine exactly when you can start planting. And last but not least, we've got the how. I'm going to show you guys 3 different methods of how to get your plants started for the fall, and also some tips and tricks for starting those seedlings. Awesome. And guess what guys, you don't even have to have a garden to get started in this. You don't even have to have anything started as far as that goes. Main thing is just getting those seedlings, those baby plants started right now. So let's go into it. Here we go. Alright, let's start with the what. What in the world are we going to plant this fall? People are always asking me, how do I know which plants are going to do good for me? How do I know if they do good in my region? All those things. Bottom line is, first thing to do is figure out, am I even going to eat this? Am I even going to like what I'm growing? If you don't like kale, don't grow kale. If you don't like spinach, don't grow spinach. Actually, you might want to grow spinach because Popeye is super strong. But basically, if you don't want to grow something, you're not going to eat it, don't grow it. Now, if you're going to give it away, that's one thing, but think about what you're actually going to consume, and then from your master list, which I've got a master list in my show notes at the end of the video, there'll be a link to that. But basically, you just need to know what you're going to eat from that list, and then go from there. Number 2, choose the crops that you have already had success with. If you already had success with some crops and they do well in your area, go ahead and plant those again, because you know you're going to do good with them. Now, if you don't have very much experience, then I have a list in the show notes of plants that myself, Gardenguy, really likes to plant that are easy. They're almost foolproof. I mean, anybody can kill plants, but if they're going to survive, these plants are going to be the ones to survive. A few of those would be, let's see, I've got my list here right now. Kale, spinach, baby carrots, beets, sweet peas. Those are really awesome choices. Guys, I just heard that the calf is being born right now. Let's go.
I've never saw a baby come out of a cow.
You've never seen that, but you got to today.
Well guys, believe it or not, while I was filming, the cow gave birth to a calf. Kind of crazy. Only farm life. Alright, now that the calf has been born, we're good. I'm going to continue with this tutorial. Here we go. Another question I get a lot is, can you grow herbs in the fall? And the answer is yes, you definitely can. 2 annuals that I really like to plant are cilantro and parsley. Also, fall perennial herbs do really good. I really like to do garlic and rosemary, chives. There, the list goes on. I got more plants in the notes, but really it's good to start those herbs in the fall because they get their root structure established, and then in the spring, after they've been dormant for a while in the winter, in the spring, boom, they're ready to just take off. Now when it actually comes down to thinking about how many seeds to plant and how many trays you need to get, I always err on the too much side. Like, always plant more than you're gonna think you're gonna. You want to have that bank of seedlings that you can pull from to start out in the next 3 or 4 weeks. But what you want to think about is, how much am I going to eat, and then break that down into, okay, let's say you're growing cabbage. Think about how many heads of cabbage you eat in a week, and then cabbage can save. So you could grow however much that is, and always do, like I said, always do more than you think you're gonna need, because worst case scenario, you can give some to your neighbor and bless them. When choosing how many seeds to plant and how many trays to do too much. Better to have too much than not enough, for sure. And as far as direct seeding goes, I like to direct seed in an area a little thicker, especially in the fall, a little thicker than you think you're going to need, because germination is worse in the fall than it is in the spring. So plant more than you think you're going to need, and then you can always thin later. But when you're direct seeding, always plant more than you think you're going to need. Alright guys, go ahead and make that list. Actually write it down right now. Write down, what do you like to eat? What do you want to eat? Dream big, think about crops that you really would actually enjoy having. Fall crops are so good. There's something about the fall time that changes the sugars. The cooler temperatures changes the sugars in the plants to make them even more sweet. Fall is my favorite time to garden, actually, because number one, the food tastes incredible. Number two, if you're starting a garden in the fall, what you do in the fall is going to pay dividends in the spring. You're going to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor months down the road. Now that you guys know what you're going to plant, let's look at when to plant. When in the world am I going to plant this stuff? Let's look at it. I'll help you out. Alright, so now that you know what you're going to plant this fall, let's figure out when you're going to plant what you're going to plant. Alright, so how can we determine when to plant your plants? You only need 2 pieces of information to know when to start your transplants. Number one is you need to know the last frost date for your area. For me in East Tennessee right now is the prime time to get started on planting. I have got a window of about 2 to 3 weeks where I can start my transplants. Transplants are basically, you plant them into little seed flats or soil blocks or like peat moss trays. Basically you're getting a little plant started in a chunk, if you want to say, or chunk, or like a little piece of soil, and those plants get started there, and then you can transplant them out into your garden. The reason we do that is summertime is really hot. I mean, in Tennessee it's humid and hot. I don't know where you guys are at. If you might be in a very arid area or more of a rainforest area. We want to start our plants in a safe environment where they can thrive and get up to about usually 3 or 4 weeks old is whenever you want to transplant them out into the garden. Really, the best thing is to get them started in the greenhouse or in your house, out in a more shady area so that the sun is not so hot. But I'll tell you more about that later. Also, watering is easier whenever you have your transplants because they're all in one spot. You can just water them all, boom, you're done. Rather than having them out in the garden where they're going to dry out quicker. You can keep them in a semi-shady area where they're going to be protected, and also pests and any animals that might be eating your crops, they're not going to eat them when they're young. So you're going to want to start transplants. For me in Tennessee, like I said, it's right now. But for now, let's figure out when to plant. You need to know your last frost date. Figure it out by just looking it up on Google, find out when your last frost date, just say last frost date for, figure out your region or your zone, put it in there, boom, you're good to go. Figure that date out, and then from that date, you're going to count backward the days to maturity for your crop. The days to maturity can be found on the backs of most of your seed packets, or you can look it up. In the show notes, I'm going to provide some links to a website where you can just put in your crop, and then boom, it'll generate the days to maturity for that crop, or the average days to maturity. As a general rule of thumb, most of the first crops that you're starting are going to need to be at least 12 to 14 weeks from your last frost date. So go ahead and count. I'll go ahead and go 14 weeks from your last frost date. And then you'll know, okay, where I'm at as far as the schedule. This video is coming out kind of at towards the end, so for most of us, at least in the U.S., it's going to be time to get cracking and planting. Now keep in mind that most of the crops that you're starting right now, the first plantings, are going to be the ones that require the most days to maturity. They're going to be like the cabbage, the broccoli, the cauliflower, maybe some of the different types of kale. They'll take a longer time to get to that stage of maturity. But there are other crops like spinach and radishes and beets and leaf lettuce that can be planted right now, actually direct seeded, or you can plant them in the transplants. But they're fun because you can use succession planting. Plant some now and then wait, depending on the crop, but usually around 2 or so weeks, do another planting, and then from there you can have harvest all the way up until the freeze kills them off. So that's another fun little tip to do. After you start your first crops now, you can continue to plant. So that's cool. Actually, all your seeds can be direct seeded, but not all of them are going to do the best if you plant them directly into the ground right now. We want to get, I like to get I think of it as like a bank of plants that are for sure growing, for sure I'm taking care of them. There's no weed pressure, there's no pest pressure. They're in my safe area, and as soon as I get that ground ready, boom, I can get those out in the ground, and I'm gonna for sure have a successful fall garden. Anytime you're direct seeding, especially in the fall, the heat and the lack of rain, usually it's just harsh conditions and doesn't always survive. That's not to say that you cannot start direct seeding even right now, but for sure get that bank of plants for yourself so that you can transplant those out in 3 or 4 weeks, and you'll be in business for sure. If you do direct seed, I suggest that you do more seeds than you would normally think you would need, and then if too many come up, then I would cull those out. Alright, you got it. You go ahead and count from the last frost date back for each crop, when to plant, boom, boom, boom. Make a list of those, and you are set to know when is the best time to plant. Hey! Alright, you've made it this far. Let's keep on going. You know what to plant now, and now you know when to plant. What's next? It is the how. We're gonna figure out how to get these plants started. Look at these guys. They're looking so nice and luscious and green. Welcome to the greenhouse of Rebecca Rhodes. She's doing a great job out here with all these seeds started. They're looking beautiful. I'm gonna show you guys how to get these going. Now, there's no need to be overwhelmed. Might look like a lot of work right here, but hey, you guys don't need to start with this many plants. You can start with, let's say, look at this. You got 1, 2, 3 flats right here, okay? These are about 2 by maybe 6 inches or something like that. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got 40 in each flat. For an average family, all you probably need is 2, maybe 3. Really, when you boil it down, it's really not that complicated. All we're doing is getting a chunk, I like to say chunk, I like that word, chunk of soil, and putting a seed on top of it, and that becomes a unit, and you'll be transplanting or putting that plant out into your garden whenever the time comes when the plant is mature. So there are 3 main methods that I like to use. One would be the peat pots here. They are nice because you can transplant them out just directly. This is biodegradable, and that'll just break down, and the roots will go out into the soil. Also, you've got soil blocks. That is what I did when I did my market garden. I really like soil blocks. They're my favorite. But another option, which probably is going to be the best for most of you guys, is it's going to be seed trays. Here's a good example right here that the Rhodes have. You have a tray in the bottom that holds the water, and then on the top you have these trays. These are pretty small. This would be for more like lettuce or kale. And then over here, this is the size I would recommend. This is the exact size that I recommend for folks. This is a 72 plug tray, and they are 1 inch by about 2 inches deep. That's the perfect size for all you need for most of your fall crops. And you can order these on Amazon. I've got a link in the show notes, and also I've got links to soil block makers. In a second I'm going to show you how to make soil blocks. One thing you can do to conserve moisture is buy these tops to the trays. That decreases the amount of moisture that's being lost through evaporation, and that way you don't have to water quite as much. Alright, here's the 3 types of soil block makers I like to use. You've got the big one here. That is for like that's really mostly for springtime planting, whenever you're doing like big tomato plants or peppers. Here is the 1 inch. You can tell it's been used recently, but that makes 4. Now this guy is my favorite right here. It makes 12 at a time. Boom, just pops them all out. This will get the job done quick. You don't have to start with this though. You can start with one like this. I've got links in the show notes for you guys, but this is a great tool. I love soil blocks. You're gonna want a tray. Can be plastic, can be wood, anything basically that's just gonna hold these soil blocks in place. And one of the main benefits of soil blocks is that you see this area, this space in between the blocks, that is what is keeping the roots from going into other blocks. Now with trays, it's plastic that's keeping them in. And what happens with planting into trays is especially if you keep your plants in the pots or in the little trays too long, the roots will go around and around and around and become root bound. But with this system, you have the roots are staying inside the block because of the space and because of the light that is shining down in there. That is how you start your seeds. Now the question is, where should we put those seeds? Where are the best places? Now this honestly is the best situation. You've got a greenhouse, wind flow on the sides where the air is flowing through, shade and the sun goes over there, so it's got a little bit of evening shade. This is a nice situation. If you don't have a greenhouse though, and if you don't want to buy one, there are some other options for you guys. One would be in a windowsill. You really want a south-facing windowsill so that seedling has enough light to where it's not going to get spindly like we talked about. A great option is just in a semi-shady spot. Since it's summertime, there's plenty of sunlight outside. The danger is that you would have too much sunlight. Don't put it in direct sunlight because, for one, the germination rating is going to go down. Seeds need a little bit of dark time for those seeds to germinate. Another really good option is grow lamps. You can use grow lamps to grow those plants indoors, anywhere. I have not done as much of the grow lamps myself because I tend to, sunlight's the best. You can't really get any better than that, but you can use grow lamps if you need to, if you don't have the space and outside, and you just put them in there, put them about 3 or 4 inches above the plant. They're actually pretty close. You would think it'd be further, but they're close to the plant, and get those plants going. There are several options that I know of. I have some links in the show notes, but grow lamps are another great viable option. You know, when it comes down to it, this is really pretty simple stuff. This is why I'm calling this, fall gardening made simple, because you guys can understand this and you can do it. What do plants need? They need light, and they need water, they need air, and they need nutrients. 4 things. Boom. So whenever I've started my transplants, the main issues I've come across fit into those 4 categories. Number 1, water. That's actually probably the main issue that I and other people I've heard of have run into whenever it comes to starting transplants. I mean, look at these right here real quick. These guys are drying out so quick. One of the issues with peat, with these trays, these peat trays, is that they kind of act as a wick, and they wick the water out. So if you're going to use these, you really want to put them in a tray to where it holds water in the bottom, and that water wicks up through, right through here. Instead of out of the soil, it wicks up through the side, keeps them moist. So peat pots work, but I would put them in a tray. But bottom line is, water is super important for little seedlings. The first stage of plant development is germination, and that is where the seed, it has been whole, it has this casing around it, and then that water hits it, the moisture hits it, and that activates the seedling inside to start pushing out. Now, if there's not enough moisture in the air and around the soil, that seed might start to germinate, but then it'll get dry and crack, and that the cotyledon and the radicle, the first root that comes out, that's going to have a hard time coming out because it's so dry and hard. The better moisture you have in your growing environment, the better germination you're going to have. I've had plants that germinate, they just started, but then they were never able to go any further because I didn't water them enough. So water is super important. Number 2, nutrients. You can fix that real quick by just buying the right kind of nutrients. My show notes have some notes about that. But main thing is just buy some really good potting mix, or I like to put worm castings in mine. I noticed that the roads are doing some biochar. Biochar essentially makes the nutrients that are there more available. I haven't tried that before, but kind of want to now. But bottom line is just buy some high quality soil. Don't buy topsoil. The topsoil you buy at the store, usually that is not topsoil. It's usually just stuff that they mix together and call it topsoil. You really want to choose a soil that's loose. Keep your soil loose so that those radicals, those first roots, they can penetrate and provide a structure for that plant. If the roots can't penetrate, I've had seeds that just kept going round and round on top of the soil and wouldn't do anything. So a loose soil is good. Number 3 is light. Guys, plants need light. They love light. Now you don't want too much heat. Otherwise these seeds, especially these fall seeds, are going to just get all too much. They're just going to stay kind of small. But you want ample light. When it comes to grow lights, make sure you get plenty. If you have to buy 2 grow lights, put them together. If you don't have enough light, what happens is the plants, they know how to search for light. So they're going to start going further out, and they're going to get spindly. It's called getting leggy. And that is no good because you end up with a plant that is weak. And whenever it starts producing that fruit that you want, it's not able to support that, and it won't produce as much. So light is very essential and important for the first stages of your seedlings. One way to make sure your plants don't get leggy when you're planting in your house is try to kind of follow the light. It's more labor intensive, but you can do it. Put your tray in the morning on the east side of the house, and then the south side, and then the west side in the evening. The last point is wind. You want some resistance. These seedlings are coming up, and if they don't have any resistance, they're going to become weak and not really be able to support themselves going forward. So you want to have some airflow. You can use a fan in your house, you can use a window you open up, but bottom line is you need some wind flow. It's good for them. Okay, we've got some direct organics, premium living soil. Essentially you want some soil with a lot of fiber to it that will hold all the granules together. Gonna pour it in here. You can pour it into anything that's going to hold some of the moisture. Spray it down. You really want it to get pretty wet. You want it to get where it's going to hold some form, some structure. So this is feeling pretty good, and Alright, I think we're good. Now, get your soil block maker. Make sure it's all cleaned off. I like to spray the bottom of the soil block maker. Sometimes that helps the blocks not stick so much. Then I've noticed it's beneficial to kind of ram it down. Wiggle back and forth. Same thing for if using a small soil block maker. Alright, we're good. Come over here. Put it in your tray. Film right here, buddy. And you push down on this. That compresses it. You don't want to push down too hard because, like I said, compressed soil is not good for the seedlings to be able to penetrate. But push down with some good pressure. Pull up. Voila! There's your seed starts. And then you just pop your seeds right there. Alright, similar idea with these trays. Just get your soil, put it over top. Another mistake people do is that they try to press down into the tray, and that compresses the soil too much. You want those roots to be able to freely go inside. At the same time, you don't want it to where there's no real soil in there. So just trying to find a happy medium. Put it in there, get this shovel, finish this off here. Finish it off. And I like to tap it on the ground a few times. See if there's any holes that need some more. I like to get a little stick. You know, the soil block makers, they automatically have these little holes that will house the seeds. But over here you don't. So get a little stick, or you can use your finger, whatever, and just make little spots. You don't really have to bury the seeds that you plant. You can get them, if you can get them right on the top there, they're actually going to be better off than if you were to put them in and try to cover them up. And then last but not least, here's these little peat pots. Really simple, just fill them up. Nice and happy sassy. There we go. Stomp it down a little bit so it closes up those air pockets. And my recommendation is, if you're using peat pots, always put them in a tray that's water, or will hold water. Put them across here and then keep that tray holding water. And that water will wake up through the peat and make these little guys happy. Same thing, same idea, just make a little hole, put your little guy, and you are set to jet. There you go. Soil block makers, peat pots, seed trays, boom. Here's some cabbage seeds that Miss Rebecca graciously allowed me to borrow. I like to put them on a tray or on a little paper. Get your seeds out. See those guys? White paper is nice because you can see what's going on. Get a toothpick, or you can try with your hand, but I like to get a toothpick or a stick and just get it wet. Over here's some water. Get it wet, and you see what's going on here?
Yep.
See that? You grabbed one of them. Boom. Just put it right into that little soil block. Come back over here. Okay. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. This is Gardenguy, and hopefully at the end of this video you went away with knowing what to plant and when to plant and how to plant. That is honestly 75% of the course that I'm doing, and I'm giving this video away for free. And if you would like to receive the show notes of this video, then just go, there's a link below, click on that, put your email in there, and I will send you guys it's a detailed, just line itemed what we covered in the video today, with some more extra information on the resources and tools you can get. And yeah, hope that's helpful for you guys. This was video number 1 in a course which involves 4 videos. So there's 3 more coming. Video number 2 will be placement, figuring out where to plant your garden, or how to incorporate your edibles into your existing landscape, or how to use a windowsill to grow your own food and herbs. So it's all about lighting and figuring out the slope and the drainage of an area, how to know what to think about for preparing a fall garden area. Video number 3 will be prep, how to get your garden area ready, how to think about fertilizers and watering, everything to do with preparing the soil for those transplants to come in and just take off and grow abundantly. And then last but not least is pests. We'll be dealing with pests, thinking about rabbits and squirrels, insect pests, how to control those in organic ways, and how to just protect your plants that you've worked so hard to get growing in the garden. So yeah, guys, that is it. I am so thankful that you are with me today, and we got to walk around the farm and learn a little bit. So now that you know what to do, go ahead and do it, guys. Write your list down, get the plants that you know you need to plant, get the soil blocks, get the trays. Trays will be the easiest option for you and quickest. Go ahead and just get those trays, fill it up with soil, put your seeds in there, boom, keep them watered, you're good. And you know where to place them now. You know when to plant for your region, and then you also know just how to do it. So guys, this is doable. You can do it, and I hope that this tutorial gave you a little bit of an encouragement to start planting more. Plant them seeds. Guys, there's no excuse for people to not grow food. I love growing food. You will too once you get it going. This is stuff that we have not been taught, but it is so fun, and I have been able to tap into some knowledge from older people, and I just want to share that with you guys and give you some of the tools that I didn't have back in the day, and give you a head start on how to get your fall garden going. Fall garden is so fun. This is fun. So get going, make your list, get your little seeds started. Once you get those plants started, you are 75% of the way to having your own vegetables and just goodness growing from your own land, and you can do it. This is so possible. Awesome. Thanks guys for your time, and yeah, if you want those show notes, just look at the link below and I'll shoot them your way. Appreciate it. Garden Guy here. Have a good one.